if you've ever been involved or aware of any R&D, once you jump down that rabbit hole, you have no idea how much it's actually going to cost to finish it and do the prototyping and do the testing and write the code. I'd like you to code something that has never been done before. Can you give me a price for that, sir?
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
Exactly.
There's never been an easier way to make $1 billion. It's easy. And here's the fun part. It's easy. What's the matter? You don't want to make $1 billion?
The company that owns the Vegas Sphere invested in the technology that they use. Does more pixels mean better pictures? And leveraging spatial audio in meetings. All that and more. Next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 643, recorded Friday, December 15th, 2023. Investing in AV. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright, and I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, Britt Yenser from Moravian University. How are you,
Hello.
ma'am?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am fantastic. You should also listen to her podcast, The Brave Space. We'll talk about that at the very end. Mr. Brock McGinnis from Nationwide. Welcome, sir.
Always terrific to be here, Tim. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. And Brock's, if you're not watching the video, Brock's shirt is much more colorful than mine. I don't even know. Was that coral?
Yes, or some such
Salmon?
Some such color. I made a conscious attempt today, Tim, not to wear purple because I know how much that sets you off.
I appreciate that. Last but not least, it doesn't really. Mr. Steve Kawasaki, a young man I have not seen for a minute, but now he is with our friends over at the farm. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. First story. You can find it on AV Magazine, and I'm not sure where else you could find it because God love our friends over in London. They've taken a very interesting interest in the MSG Sphere. So much so that they went down the road of SEC filings, the Security and Exchange Commission's filings. So the AV Magazine folks took a look at some of the filings by the MSG Sphere. Apparently, the Sphere took an innovative approach to its technology procurement by acquiring equity stakes in two key suppliers, audio systems provider Holoplot and the LED display builder Seco Technologies. They did this not this year, but in 2018 and 2019, just as the plans were going out. The 2018, MSG acquired 25% of Holoplot. In 2019, they acquired 30% of Seco. The timely investments allowed the Sphere to secure quote-unquote cutting-edge AV solutions from these best-in-class partners, while also capturing some of the value derived from being the showcase site for their groundbreaking technologies. Okay, so I'm going to give you my opinion at the very end here. Britt, I'm going to start with you on this.
Me?
I'll start with Brock. What does this do for all the positive PR, all the positive press that both companies have gotten from the opening of the Sphere?
I think an investment in very small manufacturers who are designing very custom product for a one-off application makes perfect sense. Both of these companies will have come back to the Sphere and said, first, you're out of your mind. And second, do you have any idea what it's going to cost to develop product that is just for you? We want a check this big just to get started. And the smart folks at MSG who own the Sphere went, happy to, but we want a piece of the action and we want to be able to watch our money because we don't want to give you those millions of dollars up front and then have you fail. And I don't think that the Sphere and the technology that has been developed for the Sphere would have happened in any other way. Not surprised to read that at all. There were a number of other very prominent audio manufacturers that turned down the opportunity to develop the Sphere because it would have consumed all of their engineering resources and probably a good chunk of their R&D and research or working capital just to make it happen if it could happen. If it could happen. And if you've ever been involved or aware of any R&D, once you jump down that rabbit hole, you have no idea how much it's actually going to cost to finish it and do the prototyping and do the testing and write the code. I'd like you to code something that has never been done before. Can you give me a price for that, sir?
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
Exactly.
I read that article and I went, absolutely brilliant. Whether MSG is ever able to capitalize on it, I could see, another sphere popping up next week in Jeddah or Kuala Lumpur or Dubai,
They're already talking about one in London.
and maybe they are. And whether the holoplots and Seikos of the world would actually make money the second time around, because as somebody who's done a lot of custom work over the years, I'm not sure they made money the first time in the round because they didn't know how to price the product. So this is, to me, Tim, and I know that you have some reservations about the end user, kind of being involved at the front end of the supply chain. I think that it makes perfect sense. They effectively bought the minds and manufacturing capability that they needed to deliver the product that they conceived of. And apparently it works brilliantly. I haven't been yet.
I have. We know a few people who have. I have only seen it. I've seen it. I got a sneak peek in August before it ever opened. So I mean, obviously the outside works mostly good. Steve, same question to you. What do we think about this investment by the actual company that uses it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. There's as kind of a business development strategy, there is a very narrow profile of manufacturers that would see this as a good opportunity, right? And I think, Brock, you pointed that out. And you have to check a lot of boxes as a business or as a developing business to view this opportunity as being, hey, thumbs up. The upsides are so much stronger than the rather considerable downsides that, we're going to say yes to it. It's got to be a small company. It's got to be a company that has, as its primary goal, developing some form of large scale or technologies that would be appropriate for a large scale experiential kind of installations. Right? And there's not that many companies that fit that profile. They have to be a company with already some kind of momentum behind it, some form of either technical or biz dev or operational infrastructure that's already underway. Can't be just a couple of very smart engineers working out of their garage just yet. It has to be something a little bit bigger than that in order to kind of check the box. And there's not really all that many companies that fit that profile. So I think it was a good business decision on the part of all parties. What it looks like moving forward, it's kind of hard to know. Did Seiko and Holoplot, are they going to get enough traction out of this one development effort that they're going to be able to commercialize their products for a larger mass market? Is there even a larger market that can afford these technologies? And I hope there is, by the way. My personal feelings about this type of work is go, go, go. It's nothing but good for the industry. It's nothing but good for the planet. I think that there are, everybody, myself as a layperson who loves to go out and see concerts and music and events, this is great. And as an industry person, we haven't been able to talk about anything but the sphere. It comes up in every conversation, casual and formal business conversations. And I think it's great for the industry. So I'm hoping that there is enough traction out of this project that, Holoplot is able to develop more fully and become a larger player in the industry. And the same thing with Seiko as well.
All right. Britt, how would the knowledge of this, right, of another venue owning, I'm going to pick on some folks here, owning Biamp, right, owning Q-SYS, owning a portion of Crestron, would that impact when you guys look to specify products, or is it just, other people own them too, who cares?
I think it depends. So I'm in the higher ed vertical, and it depends on your institution and whether or not you're private or public. So I'm a private institution, so we have fewer rules and regulations. At my institution in particular, they care more about whether you personally have investment in something, and I don't. So I could make purchases or recommendations, and they would consider that to be without bias.
Interesting. You personally, though, as you're looking at this, how big of an impact would this have if you were looking at HoloPlot, if you were looking at another LED manufacturer and found out that, hey, this is also not only being used at the Sphere, but also owned partially by the Sphere?
For me personally, I found that really interesting. I really appreciated hearing the perspective from Brock and Steve, because that was not the perspective I took, because I was very focused on wait, they acquired what at what time, and how is this affecting them as a company and their revenue? It kind of reminded me of the documentary that recently came out about the GameStop short and everything, where I was I wonder if we're gonna get a documentary about this someday.
It's very possible. So I was with Britt on this, and really briefly, there's at least in the state of Illinois, there was a law probably 100 years ago now that was passed that said a brewery could not own a bar. Okay, I'm going somewhere with this, so hang on for a second. And one of the more popular bars here in the area is called Fast Eddie's Bon Air. It was originally owned by Anheuser-Busch back in the early 1900s. Well, when that law was passed, it became something else, and other people, bought it. That felt like that to me, right? This story felt like a brewery owning a bar. Now, to Brock's point, and I'm with Britt, I appreciate the perspective, because I hadn't thought about the fact that we're asking you to do something that's never been done before. We're going to buy a piece to help you do that.
And we're going to consume the entirety of your business over the next 5 years doing it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to work for any other customers. You're not, Holoplot was a pretty small company doing mostly museum and exhibit work, kind of one-off customizations. They had modules, but that's all they had. And so they've been working on nothing else but the Sphere, and I get it. They basically, the Sphere hired the people who own those businesses.
I do wonder though, as someone who makes purchases and researches things, I would probably be less interested in a company that doesn't have a very large portfolio, where it's okay, what you're doing at the Sphere is incredible and interesting, but if you can't show me more or other applications or other places, maybe not for me.
Yeah, I mentioned when Brock was talking that they are talking about one in London. Really quickly, the politicians in London are arguing, and that's all I have to say about that, because
there's a baseball player in LA who can afford one.
I'm certain. Yes. Yeah. Go Dodgers. Next story, Q-SYS has announced that the new collaboration and architectural offerings that they've got has a brand spanking new, very first Microsoft Teams room solution that supports spatial audio for more natural meetings, and also in the announcements was zero bezel ceiling speakers, providing premium acoustics without visible edges. The spatial audio enabled Teams room solution, though, leverages Q-SYS hardware and AI to position voices by their locations on screen, advancing equity for remote participants. Vic Baggett from Q-SYS said, quote unquote, spatial audio is another example of the advanced features and functionality Q-SYS brings to elevate experience. Mr. Kawasaki, we'll start with you on this. How important is spatial audio in not just Teams, but in video conferencing in general, or as Q-SYS said, for meeting equity? Microsoft
has been for a while now promoting the new widescreen version of Teams, right? They call it, in Microsoft parlance, they call them signature rooms. And what it does is it gives you a very large sort of video panel in the middle with all your video conferencing panes in there. And then on the left and the right, you have a couple of data panels that can show scrolling text and meeting participants and chat and a bunch of other things. The screen's very wide. And the layout of the people on the screen is very wide as well. And for that particular type of room, spatial audio is really helpful because it helps you echolocate, not echo, but helps you, using the the position of the voice coming out of the speaker helps you actually locate with your eyes who's talking on the screen. It's a nice feature. It works really well. It helps with that. It helps a lot with that widescreen format where there is a lot to look at, and it helps the meeting participants in the room focus on the meeting participants on the far side. It's pretty useful, and it gets good meeting results. Microsoft's been promoting it really heavily. I think it's got. I think assuming that format of meeting room, which uses the long wall as the screen wall, which is as opposed to what current meeting rooms use, for most part. As that gains traction, I think people are going to find it a pretty useful feature. Outside of that, I don't know. I'm here talking with you folks, and I'm hearing your voices come out of my speakers, which are behind my monitors. It's fine. I'm looking at all four of you right in front of me, and I know who's talking. So it's in the smaller format room, not a ton of value.
I appreciate you said assuming that's going to take off, because who knows? I mean, they've been talking about 21.9 for 2 years, dude, and some folks have gotten into it, right? You've got multiple absolutely. Display manufacturers who have. Now we've got audio in it. Britt, same kind of question. Whether it's a classroom or it's a meeting space, how big of an issue is, or how big of a benefit is it for spatial audio and locating where folks are talking from?
I mean, I don't think it hurts, right? But I don't know how necessary it is. I kind of take issue with the idea that it is helping with meeting equity. I understand why they would say that, and I understand why it's important to be able to see who's speaking and everything, and have great quality audio, but I think that meeting equity is not something that can be solved with technology, really. Like, meeting equity is the person running the meeting and whether or not that they're running that well and making sure people are included and those like soft skills sort of things. I don't know how much technology can help with something like meeting equity unless you're taking like very human skills into play. And even the AI piece of like it recognizes a voice and tracks. I've noticed that a lot of faculty are like, make it stop doing that. Like they actually don't want.
Why? Like what is their reason? Not that you can see in their brain, but what is like, do they verbalize why they want you to stop that?
They find it distracting, and they personally prefer to have larger views, and they also will do things like have a camera focus on a board where they're writing, or they'll be using a document camera, and like they want the focus to be on the content that they're showing. They don't want the focus to be on random people speaking.
Okay, that's fair.
That's actually really interesting to hear. Because we, as an industry, get all caught up in the technology, and it can do this, and it can focus in on you, and it will improve meeting equity for those poor folks that are stuck at a conference table at the office, versus having a big headspace like this as a remote participant, and you're actually getting pushback from users. Mm-hmm. Good to hear.
Brock, anything else to add on the spatial audio?
I'm glad that Steve explained that this was all about the widescreen view, because otherwise I didn't get it. I mean, Britt's got AirPods on, and there's spatial audio in those. And if you're listening to certain kinds of recordings, you can tell if the keyboard is on the left and the bass player is on the right. You get a sense of where on stage the performer is, and that was a big advance in recording technology, and to be able to give us a sense as we sat in our living rooms consuming great music, that we felt more like we were in the hall and had direct sound coming from the but in a lecture hall, I don't suspect that spatial audio is required to tell whether the professor is on the left of the dais or on the right of the dais. And I'm not sure at a meeting, other than getting people's attention up from their phones, which they tend to be on during meetings anyway, it will have a great impact. But it's there, it's part of the audio toolkit for a lot of recording capabilities, and why not toss it into Teams and be able to market it?
Final story comes to us from our own AVNation website, and I am incredibly jazzed to do this. A young man that I've been after for a while to write for AVNation, his name's Robert Heron of Heron Fidelity, and he wrote his very first piece. He dives into screen resolution as he aims to define what quote unquote HD means, which I freaking love. 720, 1080, 4K, whatever, non 4K, UHD, all the jazz. Actually, he dives really deep into the pixels and as well as the horizontal approximations, respectively, throughout the different ones. More pixels, according to Robert, also enable viewers to sit closer without discerning individual pixels. However, even 8K resolution, offering 33 million plus pixels, is wasted unless optimized by factors like contrast, color accuracy, and advanced formats. Thus, impressive pixels remain fundamental to displays, but realizing their full potential requires both pixel quantity through high resolutions and pixel quality for a truly immersive viewing experience. Of course, Mitchell will put a link to this on this episode's page. Britt, first question for you on this is, how do we communicate to the decision makers that more pixels is not inherently better? Right, and I say decision makers. Britt works for a university. She's a decision maker, but she has people above her, right? And this goes back 100 years when I was a tech manager. We had a lovely president, and God love Dr. Chapman. But when 1080 came out and then 4K came out, he had to have it because it was bigger and better, not because it was useful in the application, but because he wanted his professors to say, "We have 4K." Projectors, right? So, Britt, how do we communicate that to the powers that be?
Yeah, I think we just have to, can we share this article with them? I love this article. Like, it was
Please do.
so good. It was so well written, and like it was technical without being overly technical. So like shout out for that. But I think the biggest thing is to keep their focus on the end in mind and what solution they're trying to get to. You know, it's like, okay, if that is your primary content, if these are the things that you want to show, then this is the best way to display it. And the best way to display it might not be like 8K, you know? So just having that conversation of like, what is it exactly that you want to do? Okay, then this is what we can do, because I don't need a 4K projector to show the VHS tape that you ripped, right?
In 1989.
Oh, no. She said two things there. Hang on. She said two things. The VHS that you ripped. And I'm laughing because I know exactly what she's freaking talking about, because we may have done the same thing when I was at the college.
I won't tell you the last time I got a VHS tape rip, but it wasn't a long time ago.
All right, Brock, help me here, because I can go down that rabbit hole really quickly. What is the balance here, right? What is the balance between more pixels is better and actually impacting the experience?
So as an integrator, the balance ends up being in cost.
Okay.
The conversation that we have to have, and I'm in the middle with my team now of designing an auditorium for a healthcare center that is going to have a combination of self-serve events, but also technician-operated multi-camera, fundraisers and public community events. And as soon as we go to a 4K camera architecture, one, they need to hire a makeup artist because it's a big difference putting a camera of that capability on a ordinary presenter at a podium. But the complexity at the control position becomes horrendously costly. Am I now running an NDI workflow and having to take separate feeds, for regular Zoom meetings and training presentations, as soon as that's 4K, that architecture is full digital and 4K. The recording has to be at a whole different level. So the conversation, because the client goes, well, I have a 4K TV at home, and the client doesn't realize that most of what they're seeing on their 4K TV is, as Mr. Heron told me, is 1080i content and being upscaled. So it's practicalities. I love my 4K TV and the occasional bits of 4K content on it. As much as I loved that first 720i 16:9 flat screen that I had, plasma,
100%. Steve, you have the last word on this. How big of a deal is it, and how do we get this out to the folks that are ones specifying these?
Yeah. So 16K is the way to go if you're building another sphere, for sure.
Well, that's the thing, is the Sphere is 16K, right?
Yeah, and for these, for people who are doing experiential installations, whether it's a Sphere or something more modest, because everything is more modest when you compare it to the Sphere. It's brilliant. Somebody told me recently that the human eye has the ability to resolve up to 200 million pixels. Okay, so 16K is what, 120, 130 million pixels, somewhere in that range. So you're getting actually close to, at that point, the ability of the human visual system to, past the point where the human visual system can resolve it. And we're talking about full field of view here, right? Not just partial field of view. And sure, there is a case to be made if you are trying to design a facility that is offering a truly immersive, a stunningly immersive experience, that these higher resolutions are going to have some value. But as Brock said, and as Britt pointed out, the practicality of what is the content now? How long do you need the screen? Do you need this screen or display to last? Do you want it to last 5 years? You're not ever going to turn this into an immersive facility. It's spreadsheets, fine. If you're using it to look at X-rays in a medical facility, you are going to need a higher resolution format, and you have higher resolution material, and lives are at stake. There is absolutely, the investment is justified. Otherwise, fit to budget, and then we as AV professionals it's our responsibility to make sure that we're explaining just how this is going to look and what they can use it for. And at higher res, I'm all for it, because I want to see more spheres on the planet. I think they're great.
I just love the symmetry in audiovisual that now every discussion starts and ends with the severe.
I'm not sure if you meant the symmetry, because that worked with the Sphere. And
correct. Yeah, no, I did actually. I chose those words intentionally.
I would not have. I'm not that smart. All right, Britt Yenser from Moravian University. Thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you? How do they listen to the podcast? All that jazz.
Okay, awesome. So I am on LinkedIn as Britt Yenser, and then I am on Twitter as Brave Brit. And my podcast is on higheredav.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's Brave Space. And just a quick shout out with some things we have going on with HETMA right now. We do have the Technology Scholarship open. So Aurora donated money for end users, quote unquote, people in the higher ed vertical to upgrade their classrooms. And we actually recently advanced or pushback is the word I want. The due date for that, it was originally December 31st to apply, but you now have until January 31st to apply for the Technology Scholarship. And you can find that on higheredav.com. And the PRISM Scholarship is also open right now. So the PRISM Scholarship is for people in the higher ed vertical who identify with an underrepresented group.
So really quickly, because, God love Paul Harris and the Aurora folks. Talk for a second about what the Technology Scholarship is for. Like, if I'm applying for it, what am I saying? What am I trying to do? I mean, obviously upgrading our system, but what is the criteria?
Okay, so what I have in the scholarship application here, which is available on higheredav.com, is that it's available to all nonprofit institutions of higher ed, and training will be provided on the equipment from Aurora. All equipment awarded through the scholarship must be maintained for a minimum of 5 years. So ultimately, what you'll do when you see this form is explain in the form what upgrades you're looking to do and what technology you're looking for, how you think it will help.
Very cool. All right. Like I said, Mitchell will put a link to both of those on this episode's page. Mr. McGinnis, thank you, sir. Always good to see you. How do people connect with you or Nationwide?
I'm on LinkedIn, Brock McGinnis, and you can contact me through Nationwide, nationwideav.com. And of course, every 6 weeks, I'm here on AVNation with Tim.
You are. Mr. Kawasaki, so good to see you, sir, after a while. How do people connect with you or the farm?
They can find me personally on LinkedIn at Steve Kawasaki, and you can contact the farm at thefarmav.com.
All right, very good. When you do, tell Kelly Perkins we said hey.
I certainly
for
will.
me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me on anything. There's no telling what I'll say. But go by the website, if you would, please, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. 2 important things going on right now. Number 1, the AVNation Reader's Choice Awards. The nomination process is open. So go tell us what the best of 2023 was, whether that's the best education or who you think the AVNation AV Professional of the Year should be. Second, if you're going to ISE, Integrated Systems Europe, which happens the 30th of January through the 2nd of February, come by, grab a drink on us, on HD Base T, and on our friends at Commercial Integrator. The tweet up is coming back, or not coming back, it's continuing at ISE. It is the 30th of January from 4 to 6 CET in the HD Base T booth. So you can register for that at avnation.tv as well. So all that and more at avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.